Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your classic and now brand new Doctor Who review, podcast, discussion, video extravaganza.
It's not an extravaganza.
Dan, we are coming minutes, literally minutes after watching the two new episodes of season 1 again. I guess we'll get to that. Doctor Who. So we've never done this. I've never been this fresh. Literally rolling off the show and into our podcast studio, which we're having some technical difficulties already. Dan, how are you, Dan? How does it feel to be like we are on the edge, the razor's edge of freshness?
I'm still watching it right now as we're going. I haven't finished the first one.
Still watching that dance sequence. Yeah. So, friends, we are reviewing both episodes. So, if you have not seen Space Babies,
God bless you if you haven't.
That would be the name I would give something when we were sort of,
right.
Because I can never remember anything, and I'm like, what's the dumbest thing I could say? I'll call them Space Babies. No, but that's the actual title.
Boy, do they lean into
Space
that one.
Babies and Maestro. We are going to spoil both of them.
It's actually called The Devil's Chord. It wasn't actually called Maestro. Apparently.
Oh, it was?
No.
Okay.
The internet was wrong.
I have to change the title card.
The internet was wrong.
Yeah, I have to change the... well, you haven't seen it. So I haven't posted it yet, so I can fix it.
You guys don't know anything.
We can fix it.
We'll fix it in post.
Let's just get into it, because we're going to do two. So we're going to start with part 1.
It's like we're sprinting.
We will do space.
I feel like this is a sprint and a marathon at the same time. Eric, yes.
I have a feeling Space Babies will be quicker than I'm going to call it the Maestro. It was called the Devil's Haircut or whatever.
Devil's Haircut.
We'll do that one second.
Yep.
So we're going to split them up, but it's going to be one episode, 2 parts, just like Dune. There was book 1, book 2, movie 1, movie 2. That's how we're going to do it.
It is just like Dune.
Dan, hit the button.
Shake the crime stick?
No, we shake the crime stick. Well, Dan, say something. I'm running hot. I'm coming off of so
You're
much.
flying into this
one. I got
one.
you
got this.
Like, I gotta go. We got 2 reviews to do. I didn't expect 2 episodes to drop.
No,
I went in all day thinking it's not so bad. I'll watch the one at 7, and then we'll be done by 9.
Right. I mean, you got stuff to do. You have like a family and a life and shit.
I got
so
stuff
like,
to happen.
I don't know.
I got people in the yard I gotta bury.
Not again.
The Jinx season 3. He confessed to the murder on his dumb podcast.
Again.
No, Dan, talk to me. How you feeling today? You feeling good?
Feeling great. I'm feeling great. Yeah, we got 2 stories here. So starting with the Space Babies. First of all,
first of all, we gotta hit the button. Shake the crime stick.
How do you keep going?
For days like this, Ruby Sunday, I'll have a...
This is Space Baby. This is season 1, written by Russell T Davies. Russell T Davies back behind the typewriter, and directed by Julie Ann Robinson. That means at one point, Russell T Davies said, "The end," and then looked at the title page and it said Space Babies, and probably underneath it it said like to be determined, or like a
replacement only
thing.
temp.
And then it was like, dude, this has got to go up tomorrow. And then, Dan, what did you think of Space? What did you think of Space Babies?
What did you think of Space Babies? Well, Eric, I will say, first of all, we're making it sound like it's a hit.
That's all the time we have for Space Babies.
All right, on to Devil's Haircut.
The next one up. No, seriously.
No, let's get really serious about this. Let's take it down a second, guys.
Get serious.
Okay.
Let's get as serious as the 2 episodes were.
Oh, boy, were they. First of all, I want to say...
Look who's talking now. It's Dan. All right.
What was the one with the dogs that were talking too? Weren't there animals? One of the later ones too?
Oh, well, I have that. I have plenty of notes about how that episode felt very much in the same universe as the Air Buddies films of which
Oh.
I watched many with my daughters. Air Buddies Go to Egypt. So okay,
Wait, what
there's
is
Air Bud, right?
Okay.
That was the original.
Yeah, with the dog and the
Air Bud
basketball.
was the golden retriever who learned to play basketball.
Famously,
I think
everyone
that
knows
was
that. Yeah.
But they kept going with that series. Eventually, Air Bud must have met a lady bud, and then they had like 8 kids that were all like, one of them is a hippie, one of them's into sports.
Sure,
like they
sure.
each had like their own archetype.
Uh-huh.
Desert? I thought you said dessert.
Butterball.
From the creators of Santa Buddy.
And then they like sometimes they were in a haunted house, sometimes they were in ancient Egypt. The Air Buddies, not this. Like,
What
you could
are
have
we
talking
talking
space
about?
babies and Air Buddies, because there is a Space Buddies where the dogs go into space, and then they could have just as easily went past the Space Babies.
Well, I thought we were talking
And
about
the two of them.
Look
could
who's
have an
talking.
adventure.
Look who's talking now. Look who's talking next.
Look who's talking in
Look
space.
who's talking in space.
Yeah.
Kirstie Alley and R.I.P. and John Travolta flying by.
And John Travolta.
Okay. I want to say from the get-go.
What did you think?
We're
of Space Babies?
we're
gonna get.
we
there.
are acting as though this is the worst thing we've ever seen, and we both know of all the Doctor Who stories we've ever seen. This
Well,
is.
you didn't tell me it was what. Did you like? You didn't.
I'm just
tell me
saying,
you liked Space
based on all the preamble before we've even gotten into the dang story, we're acting like it's the worst like crime against humanity. I was very excited for this because, as we've seen in the previous like intro stories, we got Shurigawa, we got Millie, not Mel Gibson. Great pair. Totally excited to see where they're going with this. We got an overarching story that was kind of set up in some of the intros. There's things coming from outside the universe. Some of the toy makers' friends are coming at us. So I'm excited to begin with. Plus, we got that Disney money. That Disney money into the production here, and
yeah.
it showed on screen. So
went all into the mouth animation.
oh, Lord
Yes,
Almighty!
keep
No, you're
going.
right. I mean, it really. That's where all the money went.
Yes.
So
what
we
is your
got the-
opinion on Space Babies?
I want more Space Babies. I want a spin-off series like the Sarah Jane Adventures, but just Space Babies is what I'm trying to say. They finally cracked
Was there
it.
a Brewster's? Was there a Brewster's Millions scenario where the Doctor had to say the word "Space Babies" a certain number of times in order for him to get the money?
It's in Shurigatwa's contract. Even in Sex Education, the series on Netflix, he said Space Babies a lot.
It was weird.
Yeah.
I never saw that
Yeah.
show, and I tuned into like episode 3. It was like he kept saying "Space Babies," and then I realized that he had
It's
had
a
an
writer.
inheritance,
It's a
but,
writer in his contract.
yeah.
I'm overall.
What did you think of Space Babies?
Overall, I liked it.
I like this as the podcast
Overall,
where I just keep stopping you and asking. Once you say what you thought of Space
It's
Babies,
over.
we
We're
die.
out of here. I overall did actually like it because I like them.
Okay.
I like the
Twist
overall
ending.
story was
Twist
all right.
ending.
There's always a twist at the end. I did not like the Space Babies, but I liked Space Babies.
Which factored they factored pretty heavily into the story.
Yeah. There was a fair amount of Space Babies,
Okay.
but even
Fair enough.
despite them, I still liked Space Babies.
Right. You still liked
Yeah,
it.
even without it. Eric, tell me. I'm trying to guess here. I'm trying to guess like Kreskin, like what your thoughts are on this. So put me out of my misery. Tell me how much you loved this story.
I thought I did not like the story. I was trying to think of like how
There's no way.
different ways that I could say that I liked it. I was real disappointed in it, I guess. I mean, I don't know. The idea of Space Babies is funny.
That's yes.
In like a passing joke, but when you commit to it, it's absurd and kind of dumb. And it yes,
agreed.
It seems, I don't know. If it was like a one-off gag in a bigger story that you was like, oh, and here's a planet of space babies, but we're going to this dimension. And it was just so dumb at its core.
Actually, what you just described was so much better than the story. That it's just a 3-second gag in a bigger, like, agreed.
Yeah. And right, like you exactly. It was like a Into the Spider-Verse. They would go past for like 6 frames, and you would see a planet of space babies. I also, again, this show is not necessarily for
No,
me.
apparently
so for some
not.
people, this is their first this is their first Doctor Who experience. So I'm trying to like sort of keep that in my head. But for having seen like the first Russell T Davies Rose story and then this story, the structures were so similar in how, like, I guess, in the first one, he's meeting Rose and he's the last of the Time Lords and he's the last of the Time Lords. And then the second one, they go to space and it's fine. It just felt very like, I don't know, like it was like you knew sort of exactly kind of what was going to happen. And the space babies part and the fact that he kept saying space babies made it out like it was not necessarily in on the joke. It was like winking at the joke and like, we understand this is stupid.
It's like
it takes it out of it.
You ever have that thing where like someone says something dumb, so you make fun of them and you start saying the thing, and then after a while you start saying the thing unironically, like that's a phrase that you're actually saying all the time? It's like that.
Yes.
It is 100% like space babies.
It becomes like so
right.
So self-referential and just like I don't know. So I wasn't happy about that. The actual story of like, a computer trying to raise the space babies and it being this big, metaphor for, what we do with abortion and not paying for services once a kid's born and like all of those. And
woven like
sort
refugees
of things, like,
into it.
And dealing with that. Right. And dealing with those issues is interesting, but not in a story that is so dumb. Like, I feel like if you had a bunch of space babies, like that could have been like horrifying or like weird or Lord of the Flies, like if they were just 12 years old instead of space babies and it was just kids running amok. That would be way more interesting. Them in their like, like actual strollers with toys and then
all the gadgets they're pulling.
Right. And some of the choices, I'm really bashing on this, but some of the choices were like, you don't need to hand feed every line, like when you find out the boogeyman is literally made of snot,
and it takes a full 2 minutes to
like
get in.
15 minutes long, and then they show you the flashback of the. If you forgot this thing that you just saw here,
that was in my notes because it happens in both the stories. Not to jump ahead, but there are, I don't know, interior flashbacks in the story. That thing we just saw 30 minutes ago. In case you're a dum-dum, here it is again. I hate it.
It reminds me of like old Marvel Comics Stan Lee, where the character thinks the thing that they're going to do. And that's like in the end of Space Babies, like the doctor's like, it's almost like the end of Alien 4. I think that's the one where the alien gets sucked out, right? Or it's one of the aliens.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I got to hit the button. It's like, we know you got to hit the button.
No, I got to
you don't need
to tell you I got to hit the
button. Like that would be like a Jack Kirby's drawing exactly what's happening and Stanley's going to, tie that up. So that was fine. And like, I don't know. So I feel like it could have been like 30 minutes long. Like certain scenes felt a little like padded.
The way they could have gotten to 30 minutes
40 something minutes long
is to cut out the majority of the scenes with the actual space babies. And that would have been good. Because I really did like everything else.
Remove all this.
I think we're actually kind of saying that like we liked the overall story was fine. It's an expedition dump in the beginning because we need
the idea of like a government cutting off funding, but then the laws
in service of
stop the birthing machines.
Right. Ridiculous laws they have to obey. But so in the structure of the overall season, they need to do the expedition dump because they are both introducing Ruby into this world, but also doing that for the viewer because this is kind of a reset and they're expecting more people to join. So like all that has to happen, and that's fine. I think they dealt with that okay.
And a lot of that happens early on, even before space babies are
goodness.
Like you see dinosaurs, it's like to tease you, and it's like, oh wow, we're going to be these dinosaurs look great, but then you go right back in the TARDIS, and then they do the whole thing.
The butterfly,
she steps on the butterfly, and then she instantly turns into a whatever creature she is, and then the doctor breathes life back into the butterfly, and then all time and space changes. Like that was that's when it started, and I was like, uh-oh. And that's not just because I have been harping on this darn podcast that I was convinced that she and the doctor are brother and sister,
still don't know.
And they're both timeless children. I think my theory's in the toilet, right?
We don't know.
she steps on the butterfly. That was the first shots fired.
Yes.
And she changes, and then it's like, okay, well, if she was like a timeless child, she wouldn't change because she wouldn't be affected.
No, you don't know
but
that.
But then you see the DNA readout later of her, and it says human, right? Or it says Homo sapien, I think. Or I don't remember what it says. But so I think that ship's starting to sail.
We don't know yet. There's something, because in the second story, which we'll get into, something else is going on there.
We'll get into
that's the Russell T Davies thing.
I hate the Applebee screwdriver. Your table's ready.
Oh,
I'm having a hard time with that sonic screwdriver. I don't like the way it looks.
Right, and
I don't like the design.
And also, they're really going into the, hey, I can do whatever we need it to do whenever we need it to do it. Like in this story, he just plugs it into a console and it syncs everything and fixes the space station. Like,
yeah, it could record music. Again,
we don't need
what we'll cover.
We don't need that. Like that's, I kind of like in Classic Who that they even just got rid of it for a while because it was a crutch. Like maybe we need to do that.
Sure,
maybe
I don't mind having it, but have it with a limited power set. And have a cool design. I don't like the design, so apologies if you're listening to this and you are the designer of the new.
We know that you're listening.
Sonic screwdriver. Hey, maybe some people like it. It's not for me.
Right.
I thought of you though when we were watching this because I have your picture right at the side of my table where I watch my things. It's in a little heart-shaped frame that I decorated with macaroni that I spray painted gold. No. Did they say that you can visit Star Trek in the like that she mentioned
we
Star
should
Trek
visit them sometime.
The doctor says like we should go. Is that
so?
I know it's
a joke,
but it was also.
But it also establishes canon. It's canon now that they are in the same universe.
Sure. Right. Well, unless we get into my other madness with the Mavity, which doesn't seem to
pay off at all.
We
don't know yet. He may bring it back later.
But there's a lot of that stuff, and it happens again in the second episode. A lot of looking at the camera and breaking the fourth wall and winking.
Well, especially the second
stuff.
The second story for sure. This one, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. So that kind of stuff is fine. I don't necessarily mind it, but part of me does kind of feel like it's a little cheap.
Can I say one thing?
But it's fine.
One thing that I'm very excited about.
Yes.
In the expedition dumps in the beginning, before we get to the titular space babies.
Oh, the Ronnie.
The Ronnie. He mentions the Ronnie. He mentions the Ronnie. It didn't mention the Valyard, which would have been really great, but like the Inquisitor, like he mentions a whole bunch of names, including the Ronnie, and that made me very, very, very happy because as anyone who's watched the show knows, I'm just hoping that Russell T Davies brings that character back.
And that part was cool, and I like all of that stuff. I don't like
the space babies.
Obviously, the timeless child thing is fine. They're leaning in. I don't like the space babies. They're leaning into the timeless child thing. That's okay. But it does sort of like, it just takes away a lot of mystery. I feel like they fix it, and he's going to fix it later.
Agree.
So
tell me how you think.
It's like the old mystery stuff is.
How do you feel like they're because I feel similarly. I feel like they're maybe like sanding down the edges of that a little bit, not ignoring it like it didn't happen, but not making it as prominent.
Yeah.
So like,
but they're like yeah, I feel like they're pulling strings. Like I'm adopted too.
Yeah,
because and then it's like, and then you start wondering like, oh, well, who raised you? Like, who is your adoptive parent, and why have you never mentioned them?
Well,
like you start asking these questions.
It's the scientist who
was
experimenting.
We know it's a scientist, right?
I guess that's what they were talking about. You've tried to blank it all out.
But when they were saying that, he was saying, "I'm the last of the Time Lords." I was just thinking, like, if you just watched Rose and was like, "Oh, this is interesting," and then you went to sleep for 10 years, and then you got up and you watched this, you'd be like, "Oh, he's still just the last of the nothing." Like in 10
which
years,
is kind of fine.
We went back and we got
a whole bunch
of Time Lord stuff, and then they just went away. So they'll come back.
Right.
I don't even remember. They said genocide a lot.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what happened to the Time Lord. They're not in a pocket universe or anything, right? They are all dead. Is that that was from the what was it called?
Power of the Doctor.
Not the Power of the Doctor. The Blinks? No, it's not whatever it is. The thing that happens with
Here's the thing.
Doctor. Is that from
this is a Doctor Who podcast, but we don't actually know anything about Doctor Who. So
I don't want to think about any other Doctor Who stuff because I literally have to hold
this one. Just keep it in our head.
Right
I'm looking at my notes to try to remember everything.
It's fallen away right now.
So they're doing all the.
They say push the button. They say push the button in this.
They do.
a clear
To
reference
our
to
show.
the old Doctor Who
No, to
show,
us.
and they named a character Eric. And here I am trashing it when there's a ton of audio drops of characters saying my name. That I was hoping you would have had a soundboard.
No, I do have. I still have
Ruby Sunday saying Eric.
I have a still frame of Ruby holding Eric with these subtitles on, where it says, "Oh, I love you too, Eric." So I have that for you at least. But anyway, I mean, yeah.
And the space station looked like a toy rattle
from the outside.
Right? That was like when you saw the exterior from the outside. It also looked kind of like a baby rattle. It looked like a baby toy.
I guess.
Maybe I'm reading into
I was reading into it because
felt
it looked like it had giant metal balls. So we're just seeing different things. It's a very much a Rorschach test.
Okay.
So whatever you want to see. But they did all the things. They, at the end, she gets the key. He does the thing with Sonic's her cell phone, so now she can call anywhere in time. They're just like, okay, the things I liked.
All the check boxes you got to
get it all into this one episode. And also, let's do some space. I always talk about this too, but
that stuff was
the
okay.
production design.
I didn't
we liked the story overall, except for the space babies.
And
the
I like
Boogeyman was
the
cool.
metaphors again.
The Boogeyman was cool. Its design was very cool.
Boogeyman was cool. It was cool, but I feel like it was also like when they kept going into it reminded that old show. It was like Five Nights at Freddy's mixed in with that show Fear, where they would just stick kids in abandoned buildings on MTV and put the cameras under their face. Like they kept running back and forth in the basement, and it just kept going on. Like it was like, okay, I feel like we saw that.
There was a lot of running down corridors, but that is a standard trope.
Yes. I like though. I do like the the adoption stuff, and the abandonment themes and stuff that are going on with the kids, and then the doctor. And I really liked the ending. I thought the ending was sweet,
mostly because it was over, or
when she chooses to go to her mom, because he's like, I can't take you, cutting all the way to the end. He's like, you can come with me, but I can't take you to your mom, the birth mom,
right?
And then she's like, yes, you are, and then they go to her her adoptive mom.
Although
that was nice. So like that
did they have to materialize into her kitchen and ruin the ceiling like that? Come on, man. Be a little conscientious.
They ruin everything. They're at the studio. Well, that's the next episode. They're smashing the boards. I don't know. I'm monopolizing this because I have lots of anger about space.
I'm reading through my notes and I have literally written down babies to the rescue when they have the flamethrowers, and I literally out loud was like, "Oh,
that was so dumb."
God. It was just
if somebody was peeking through my window and they saw a grown man watching this, like, what is going on?
You'd be like, "Hey, buddy, come on in."
I've seen Air Buddies, and it's the same.
I feel like
Air
I've
Buddies
seen it
has
now.
some pretty intense action.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like
there's like 100 Air Buddies movies. I think they're all on Disney Plus too.
We're going to be reviewing all of those in between each of the.
We should be reviewing the Air Buddies movies.
Okay.
Because they are all shot on a soundstage. Some are kind of racist because it's from like, the early 2000s. Like, you got to go into the Air Buddies. You got to go to Air Buddies, Halloween, where they're in a haunted house. And I think there's like a hairless cat is the villain.
Oh, well, from what I remember. That's a little there's racist.
There's a monkey in Air Buddies Egypt when they go to the pyramids.
I mean, I like that it's inclusive.
That's my dog.
Watching Air Buddies.
My dog is like, what was the significance of saying it was 6 years?
I want to take something back, by the way. I did say I kind of liked it overall, except for except for the space babies, except for the fact that to move the space station, they had to burn dirty diapers. Like, so there were some parts of this
and then it's
I didn't
big
actually like.
So it's like these really heavy themes of like, people, I guess, abandoning their children and like a government that doesn't care about life, really. They only care about politics for a giant fart joke. Like when it takes off, it's like a big fart cloud,
which is not scientifically accurate. The way that cloud was like, no, it was just,
but it's
so
just
silly. It was so silly,
right? And it's just the babies, and then the babies are like with flamethrowers trying to kill the bogeyman. And then like 2 minutes later, they're crying and they want the baby.
Don't kill it.
And
then they're friends with the boogeyman.
And the way she yells at the poor nanny, like, you gotta save them all. It's like, I get it, but it was also like heavy.
But also,
and
do you?
just like no nuance? Like,
But
just,
but
what?
do you actually? Like, I don't even understand why that was
I don't
important.
even
Like,
know. I don't know why they.
why?
They were because
He
you
was
need stories.
because he was the last of his kind.
They don't need stories. They need like human
Right.
touch. That's more important. I love stories. I tell stories. That's
But you
probably
also
higher
love
on the list.
touching people.
How about new clothes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what? No, I'm
I
sorry.
don't know where. I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't know what's going
No.
on. It's fine.
It was fine.
So yeah,
I think our bottom line on this story was it's fine.
I didn't like it.
It was not. It was definitely not.
Well, here's another thing. I'm gonna you go because
I was just gonna say I don't think it was maybe the best first story to have to kick this off.
No.
Also, it wouldn't.
It's treated as the second story too,
because they had
like in their season list, like the Christmas one is number 1, which makes sense, which is a stronger.
You definitely need to have that first, but to like drop these two together. I mean, but I don't know where it would have fit in a season. I would have been kind of bummed if they had like building up a story over time.
You could have cut
probably could have just cut it. Probably just cut it.
Cut this whole
probably could have been fine. Speaking of cutting it, do you just want to like cut it out? No. Okay.
Yes. Well, what I'm gonna and there's a lot of Morissette songs about that guy, right? No, I can understand now why they had to drop 2.
Oh, because of the stinker. They had to like hey, let's.
Because if you had just let this stinker,
people have been rioting in the streets.
People would have been upset.
Well,
because we had 2, right? It wasn't just this one. There was also a second.
I'm kind of interested to see what the reaction is to either of these. I think people will have strong opinions on both for different reasons.
Yeah, I don't know. I no longer understand how people feel about anything. I think the people that hate Doctor Who will hate both of these.
Yes. Well, no,
like that
people
crowd is not
who proclaim to love
changing.
Doctor Who, but only love their specific Doctor Who in its specific way, are going to hate this. Yes.
So I don't think that's going to change. But how like, I would say normal fans or regular fans,
people who are
people that like, I don't know how they'll react. For me, I was like,
it's fine,
really disappointed because it was super dumb.
Yeah, right.
And I usually like dumb, absurd things, but for me, it was like too much. It was, and God bless them, they committed.
They really did.
Like they committed to this thing, and you got to see talking babies.
We got talking babies,
and that was a thing that happened on the first episode, and I was very worried. Right. So I think we can jump into the second. Do you have anything else about Space Babies?
The only thing was the very end of this, the literal very end, when he's talking about names. He circles back around, and he said, "My name was," and then they cut. Which is that a thing we really care about?
Yeah, I don't know. But and also, but at the end, there's all the mystery, because they do give you the mystery in this.
Is that there's something with her and she's not right, and she's
something with her, and is this the one where
snow?
No, that's
it was the snow.
The snow. That's
it was in this one. They were in the spaceship and they had a member.
That was really cool.
Yes, thank you.
That was really, really.
It was cool.
I do like that
as a story beat, but it was also cool for Shudigatwa. I really the close up of him and the tears in his eyes as they're doing the flashback, like that was actually an honestly very good moment.
Editing,
beautiful moment.
Right, and that's what I was trying to get at before. Like it's like all the old mystery that was kind of interesting is being over-explained to death, but then he's compensating because we're getting this new thing, and it's like that structure where we see all the way in the first episode, right? He first sees. You see him crying. That's like the opening of Ruby Road. Ruby Ridge.
Church of Ruby Ridge.
Road Ridge. The documentary I watched on Ruby Ridge. Now, where he's crying, and you get a little piece of that, and this you get a little bit more, and now you see that the mom figure turns and points at him. And then the way that they edited that was super cool. And then the snow, and now you have like memory.
It materialized in memory. This is something he's never seen before.
And it's connected to her. And he mentions the thing about the babies. And then you get the DNA profile. She did the 23andMe, which was weird. There was that whole...
While she was spitting into it.
Tube and mail it away. And then that's when my heart sank a little bit. I'm like, I guess she's not...
By the way,
Unless they inhabit vessels, but that's a whole other thing.
Unless they, wait,
It's like,
wait,
I'm
wait,
still
wait.
there's still a part of me that wants to hold on to
Unless
it.
they inhabit,
But she's
unless
something
they
else.
inhabit vessels. Tell me more about your crazy theory.
Right? Well, then you go from vessel to vessel, which is
I
why
see.
Mrs. Flood is a
Who
body
is
that's
Mrs.
inhabited
Flood?
by the vessel. That's why you saw her personality
Right.
change
Right.
because the vessel.
If you
know,
guys
that's
want
just
to know
like-
more about that, you should click on the link that Eric's going to start.
Yeah, don't even click on it anymore because I am losing. I'm losing.
I still
the
like it.
battle
I
on
think it's a
that
great
one.
story. It's fine.
I still like it, but what my point is
Your points.
that's enough for me. Like I hope that they just keep feeding me the weird stuff that is not going to get over explained. I mean, eventually it will, but I like that. I thought that was cool, and that was a thing I'd never seen before.
I mean,
Like time
to be fair,
leading in. I guess we probably have.
no, but I mean, no. He says
it was
he says
interesting.
he's never seen that before too. What I think too we've never seen before is
He also says,
space
"I've
babies.
never been scared before. Why am I scared of this?" And then they're like, "Because it's at
scary.
some frequency.
17 hertz.
It's like fear.
Let's just insert a 17 hertz tone right here.
Like, what is
I
that?
don't- It's
Yeah.
silly.
I thought like when they were introducing that plot point, I was like, okay, well this whole thing is an illusion because no one would make something this dumb. Like in my head, I'm like, okay,
Right.
that's why he's saying they're in a story and they were gonna take a helmet off and they were in some other world that made sense.
I also like.
But no,
I
space
also
babies
like
are
that
real.
better.
Why were the space babies able to talk and not age? Did they say that, or did I glaze that over?
I think because
I was so
ship
like, why
wasn't
are we
working
doing
right
this?
properly or something, so they grew up.
But why wouldn't they age?
Eric,
why wouldn't their bodies?
Why were
grow?
there space babies?
But they can develop and they talk.
Right.
Fine.
And they can use flamethrowers.
Yep,
So
but they know how to use weapons, but they did not age, and it was not.
I'm so
important.
glad they
And
set
that
up.
seems like something medically you should look into
Yeah.
because they're
Don't
human.
shame them though. I think it's fine. I'm glad they really took this time to set up that they had to blow their noses at the same time to then set up the boogeyman lip. Like
Yeah.
Oh.
And their clothes are so clean, and the strollers. Anyone who's had a kid, at 15 minutes, it's not like that.
Right.
They've been sitting out there 6 years with their only human caretaker hiding in a broom closet.
I mean, do you blame her?
That's also a
That
problem.
part feels actually real.
Why are you hiding here? Because I don't want to see them die. All right. Well, you need some help as well. Like that
Yeah,
place
clearly.
needs some better health. BetterHealth.com. Use offer code. Why have we done this? No, Dan.
I think we're good.
Are we
We've-
done? Can we move
We've
on?
beaten the space babies to death. Let's move on to the next story.
Okay.
Who are you?
My notation is Maestro.
But what are you?
I am music. And you, Mr. Timothy Drake, you're a genius.
This is the Devil's Chord, Dan. This is from May 10th, which is today, right now.
Still today.
2024, also written by Russell T Davies. He's been busy. And directed by Ben Chessel, or Chessel. I'm going to say
Okay.
it's Chessel.
All right.
Good job, Ben. This is the story of the Doctor and Ruby deciding to go back to 1963 and go to the Beatles recording their first album. Now, if you're going to go see the Beatles record an album,
Not
you
this
think,
album. Not the first
you'd
album.
probably go back and do Revolver or I mean, the White Album is probably, it's very, very stressful as you go later on in the Beatles recordings.
Sure.
It's. I
think
feel like I would go to
I
like
could-
Rubber Soul.
I would-
like Rubber Soul.
Magical
would be a
Mystery Tour
good-
would be super fun. A lot of the
Magical Mystery
backtracking that
Tour.
they invented a lot of the
Yeah.
technology for that. I would love to have seen that. That'd be great. So boo.
You could
Boo
do
to
like
you.
Sergeant Pepper's because I'm pretty sure like when Sergeant Pepper's was being recorded, Pink Floyd were recording Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Like think of all the bands you could see if you
Amazing.
just waited a little.
Yeah.
bit. But they didn't wait because there's a tie-in to early Who here, so we got to go there.
Which
Uh,
loved. Okay.
yeah.
Eric, let me flip
Okay,
the
so I
tables
get
on
to
you.
go
Tell me
first.
what you thought of
Yeah.
this story.
Okay. If the first one I said was like a 2 TARDIS,
Yeah.
this one would be like 110.
No.
I loved
That's
this.
a lot of
Well,
TARDISes.
by the time you get to the end, it loses some TARDIS.
Sure does.
But it ends up being pretty solid though. But
Okay.
I thought the opening of this
Yeah.
was so good And now you
when you
talk
say the
about,
opening, like the
Jinx,
literally before.
Jinx, literally the cold
Yes.
opening
Okay. Cool. Yep.
when the maestro plays the theme.
Yes.
Oh, it was like night and day for
Yep.
me in how you tell a story or unfold a story or bring me into a story. I was so maybe it's because my expectations
Yeah.
were beaten
Hey.
to death by Space
Babies.
Babies. But Jinx
You got it.
Monsoon, I would watch her forever. Like, so
Yep.
I guess she's not the master.
Well,
we said we're
guess
spoiling
not.
things.
Yeah.
Well,
Guess not.
No,
No,
they're building
you're right.
their own
Mythology thing.
like pantheon of super gods,
Literally.
which is also interesting to me. So she's one of those. So that was like, oh yes, and it's also absurd.
Yeah.
Like it does all the things that Space Babies does, but there's stakes and there's menace and there's an evilness and there's a threat. Like it does some like looking at the camera.
Yeah, which I'm
talk
fine
about that.
with.
I don't love that. Yeah. Well, when Jinx does it, yes.
Yeah.
But the Doctor does it at the end.
You're right.
When we get to
I
the
agree.
end,
I agree.
which I wish that wasn't there.
Right.
You know, I was like really into it until kind of that, and it was like, all right, we get it.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I'm still okay with that. I don't know. I really liked it. I thought the writing was cool. I thought the idea of like music being taken away is great. I love music, so like that was cool.
Famously so, yeah.
I don't know. The Beatles were just enough of it that I didn't get annoyed. Like if it was too much Beatles, that could get super corny.
Yeah.
It was like just enough of them being in it, but it really wasn't about,
Totally.
They ended up playing a big role at the end, but it was like,
but it wasn't focused
cool.
on them. Yeah.
I don't know. I got a lot of notes for this, but I thought the opening was great. And the fact that they start playing the theme.
It was so fun. It was so
cool.
fun.
And the little boy was cool. And the teacher was cool. And if you're trying to make art and someone's preying on that weakness that's within you, did we talk about Baby Reindeer? I feel like we should have a separate.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it. I don't.
Oh my God.
I know everyone's all about it.
I don't think I've connected with something. There's a scene in Baby Reindeer. I don't want to say you eventually will watch it. But there's something about fame and self-hatred and needing validation. But all the stuff that the maestro was saying to the like nobody thought you were good and
right.
and then he lets out his talent and she just eats it up. Like that was so cool.
Yep.
I loved it. I did you not like it?
Okay, no.
You were shocked that I liked
I'm surprised
it.
you liked it as much as you did because the end of it, I didn't need a musical number at the end. I didn't need it. Yeah. I didn't need a twist at the end.
It wasn't needed.
So everything from his wink to the camera to the end, fine. Get rid of it, and it would have been okay. But I will say, Jinx Monsoon, one of my top 5 favorite drag queens of all time. Love her to death. She's also doing on Broadway right now. If anyone wants to get me tickets for this, I want to see her. She's performing the role of Audrey as Little Shop of Horrors right now, which is one of my favorite musicals of all time. So like the Venn diagram of like nerdy interests and drag queen,
right?
It's
all coming together
for this one.
She was so funny, but then like the voice modulation changes and the screaming and like it was like it reminded me of like some of the stuff from like old John Waters movies.
Yeah.
Obviously Divine.
Yes.
But like that kind of like humor.
It is
that like
campiness
that goes from
it's the campiness and vampy put together and in a knowing way that is this kind of meta like self-awareness of it. Wonderful. Jinx is incredible.
It was good, and it worked really well for a character that exists outside of time. Whereas it didn't work doing that kind of stuff in a story about space babies.
Yeah, that's the only thing I didn't like. There weren't enough space babies in this one, but otherwise it was pretty. No.
But what go on? What do you think of the actual
story itself? Going back to
the end, we both agree was sort of unnecessary.
Going back to see the recording of the Beatles, great. They do a whole costume change. The only thing I would have liked as the classic Who point of view is like, could they have gone into the wardrobe and done a little 30-second montage of them playing with costumes? I would have liked that because it would have been a nice throwback to the Doctor kind of like I would have liked that, but it was still fun.
Here's what would have been great. Okay, I'm rewriting Russell
Thank
T
you.
Davies.
Go for it.
I understand that we have to be there so the doctor could say, I used to live over there and talk about Susan, which we got to get to. That's a whole other.
I was so
but
surprised.
But if they had gone for like 1967, the doctor could have been on the cover of Sergeant Pepper. Like there's all those people.
Oh my God.
They could have like popped in.
Yes.
In an outfit, like dressed like I'm trying to think of like Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley.
Like dressed up like.
Wait,
he doesn't look.
Aleister Crowley.
Cut this whole thing.
Aleister Crowley's on the cover of Magical Mystery Tour of Sergeant Pepper. I had no idea. I don't know why, as a dum-dum, I didn't put together 1963 leading to that moment of talking. Which we will. Let's just keep talking about the fact that we're going to talk about it, but let's not talk about it at all. But that I thought was really clever. Yeah, I mean, trying to think about what actually happens in the story, like. Going through and like music has been. The
story starts where
music has been like eaten by Jinx. I will say too. This is
and they have to fight
the series overall.
Maestro with music. They have to fight with music, which is not unlike that Aerosmith game, Revolution X.
Destroy Chemitech. It's a front for the New Order.
Oh,
which was one of the dumbest shooting games. Do you remember you would shoot people with CDs?
Yeah.
That was the game. It was an arcade game with the gun, and you were shooting.
I thought you were going to go with like Devil Goes Down to Georgia sort of thing.
That was also awful. Okay, so there are things I didn't love. The Devil Goes Down to Georgia sequence.
Yeah.
In the story,
but I will say, Eric,
it was a bit much.
This was for you.
That's where I started losing TARDIS.
I was absolutely thinking of you because I was looking at the picture that I have of you framed next to my TV. Where they start the music battle, but it's done in reverse. Like Jinx, like the maestro like reaches out and grabs the violin and pulls it up to her face to play, but it's all shot in reverse. So she actually says music battle backwards, and it's very much Twin Peaks Man from Another Place.
I didn't even notice that happened.
If you watch like
that
because they're doing, I'm assuming that they did the whole thing backwards because they do it in reverse to bring the violin into her hands, and her earrings are jingling backwards in a way.
And sometimes my arms
bend back, and then they're in a red room.
The Man from Another Place just. Then they could do the.
They do the music number at the end.
I forgot about that whole sequence. It's lost a couple TARDISes for that. Once they took the fiddle out, it was
right.
Because I also don't 100% understand. Like I was like, okay, the maestro feeds on music, right? That's that, and ultimately wants to hear the sound of the heavens and all.
And feeds on all the songs that are never sung. So eating all the music,
whatever you have in your heart,
so that no one else can sing, and like the absence of music feeds her.
Yes,
or them.
And then it comes out that somebody, and maybe that's a mystery somewhere, played a song that unlocked and brought her into this universe.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Because there is the tie into the Christmas song.
And then the doctor
when
the doctor's Ruby, like, oh, so that means that I can play a certain set of notes and send you back,
right.
And then Maestro's like, yes. So why are they having a music fight? Like what?
No, that had no.
What interest is it in
fun.
The Maestro to do it? And what is it? The doctor's just. It was like everyone else that plays music, Maestro eats them.
Right.
But the doctor's playing music, and they're just sort of they're just playing a fiddle game. Like I didn't understand. Like it just seems like you just want to have that.
It's the same thing with every like big villain. Why does the master always like toy with the doctor instead of killing him? Why did the toy maker just play games with him instead of just killing him? Like it is just that thing that they do.
That's his nature, right? That's a toy maker. The same thing loves games.
He does love. He's the personification.
Literally his name. He's a toy maker.
Oh, you're right. I get it now. When they do have that whole.
Who's the father? The toy maker's the father of
the maestro.
The maestro. Now, this is where, if we had more time, we could have looked it up because we have not seen any Toymaker episodes in the Hartnell years.
Well, there was only the one, I believe.
I think it's a Hartnell story.
Yes.
Is that character in the canon of the show previously? That he
because
they make some mention. Doesn't they say something like the doctor did this?
Are your dogs watching Air Bud right now?
You're the toy. There's going to be too much editing. I didn't want to edit at all. Oh yes, I from what I remember, the maestro is monologuing.
Yep.
And says something like, "And this person did whatever,
Killed my father and
then
buried him in salt." Sure.
Buried him in salt. Which, remember, the doctor David Tennant put salt, and then that's what started something.
Well,
right?
that was the whole edge of the universe thing. So this is all going back to them going to the edge of the universe and inviting something in.
So it's like a salt thing.
Yep.
But then when the doctor hears that, doesn't he then say like, "You're the Toy Master's daughter"?
I don't remember if that was the order that it was said in, because we literally
maybe it's
just watched this, so I don't remember.
It's fine. But yeah, go on. I don't know what else we got.
Well, we have
got the Aerosmith joke.
So we have them.
Devil Went Down to Georgia.
We have them fighting.
It falls off, I guess, as it gets.
We have them fighting, and Ruby is wrapped around like with musical staves floating.
Hold on.
Hey.
All right, there's a fox outside, so my dogs are going crazy.
I thought they saw Christy Gnome.
Going crazy like a fox for a fox.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. What are we saying?
So we have a music battle.
Devil Went Down to Georgia.
No, let's try this one more time.
Are we still on this?
We got them having a musical battle. Ruby's wrapped up in a musical staff floating in the air, and then she starts singing. The music she sings before the Christmas Carol starts, she's singing something, and it sounds very much like the background music of any of like the mystery parts of Gallifrey lore. Like it definitely sounded like it was
maybe
a reference
back to being right.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like it really did sound like
back to being right.
You never were wrong, buddy. But it really felt like that to me.
I didn't know what it sounded like, something sort of heavenly and weird, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But then it goes
right
into
Christmas carols,
song,
right.
And then it becomes again tied to Christmas and wherever she's from. And then the maestro's like, she's not right, or she doesn't. Something's wrong. Like, something's wrong with her.
Something's wrong with that girl.
Which was actually. And then they were like, "Cut! What are you talking about?" It's like something's wrong with that.
Stick to the script.
That's weird. So now she's sort of like the mystery element of the whole thing, which is cool. But that scene was really interesting. And then I was like, "Oh, she's gonna sing, and then that's gonna be the thing that destroy." But it's not. And then all of a sudden, it becomes the doctor.
But you knew where that was going. It had to be him, and it had to be that conversation that he had with Paul McCartney earlier, where he's like, getting deep into him. It's like he finally admitted, like, yes, I do hear music, and it's this note, then this note, then this note.
I was getting a little upset about that whole piano scene, like when they kick the piano, and then all of a sudden John Lennon's, and I'm like, it's gonna be Paul. It's gotta be Paul. Paul's gonna be one.
Then it was John,
and
it was the two of them. Of course, it had to be the two of them because they were the genius together.
Right. And meanwhile, like George is
what about me?
Back looking through the window, like they never let me write any songs, and I write some pretty good songs.
Pretty good stuff.
Let It Be is now being re-released on Disney Plus, and it was like it's a nice tie-in for the Beatles and the
House of Mouse. Man, they tie it all together. I will say,
so they know how to do it.
This is super petty, but none of the Beatles.
Throw it out.
None of the
we're all about the petty stuff. Is what gets the numbers up.
None of the Beatles look like the Beatles. If you had put them in a lineup and say which is which. Other than the glasses, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. It was so far away from anything resembling any of them.
Here's another thing where I'm doing a better rewrite.
Thank you.
It's 1967. The piano gets knocked out.
Yes.
John Lennon. Right, and Paul McCartney. They're trying. It's not right.
Yeah.
Some shaggy-haired guy comes back. It's Brian Wilson.
What?
He plays the most beautiful sounds on the piano, and light shoots out, and then that's what saves the day.
Yeah, I mean that would have been great.
I don't know if he's in England in 1967, but he's recording Pet Sounds around then, so it's
a whole alternate timeline anyway. The thing we haven't talked about, because it is 1963, we do get them on the rooftop where the doctor points.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Yes. Points like I live.
I can see my house.
Basically, I can see my house from here, which is cool. I will say though, it was kind of weird that he mentions Susan and then mentions that all the Time Lords got like ripped apart, and maybe she's dead too.
Yeah,
and then he kind of like, but anyway,
that was weird.
But anyway, maybe she's dead.
That was weird because that's the second time that he mentions
he just
genocide
doesn't care.
In the first episode. Says it again here, but the way he said it, there's like a callousness to it. Like, you're not going to look?
No.
But then it opens up all these other questions that no one really has ever asked. and you sort of leave it that
The
way.
first question,
is
Doctor
like,
Who?
Who's the mother?
Right?
Like,
Well,
is Riversong the mother of Susan?
They do say.
Like, and why is Susan?
You have a granddaughter.
Been abandoned and you never look.
You have kids?
Go on.
No, but you're right. Like that
Yeah.
part, you have kids. I did have kids. I will have kids, but they don't. We've never. It's always been weird that it was the grandfather and Susan, and no mention of how that relationship was actually physically.
And I think
happened.
when we reviewed the show, I think it was like a Sam from Different Strokes situation.
You get this straight, Sam. This is your family from now on. And stay away from that telephone. You step out of line just once. You remember what I told you I would do? I will kill your parents, Sam.
Like, he just said, "You're my granddaughter."
My granddaughter.
She was just wandering, right. She just went out, was wandering by the soda machine, and he pulled up in his
You're my
TARDIS.
granddaughter now.
Yeah. Now you live with us.
Yeah,
but that's kind of stuff is weird. Same thing with like Paul McGann, who like in the movie is half human, half like, you don't talk about that either, even though
we do not talk about that.
We just say we pick and choose what's canon.
That's right.
So but they said specifically, it's my granddaughter. So, and she's like, she's right over there. Don't you want to go look? And then he says, no, they're all dead.
I'm good.
So that means she's not there. So it's like, you just said she was over there. Is she over there or is she not over there? Because if she's over there, you may want to go up and say, you're going to be dead.
No, because he makes that reference, like timelines. I can't, so he does say like he can't go there.
Yeah, I get it. He does,
which is fine,
right? And for the same reason that he can't go to
Ruby Ridge,
Ruby Ridge, because the government. That he can't go to the church on Ruby Road,
right?
Because, and then there's another thing that happens, right? So music all goes away, and it's chaos, and it looks like Fallout 4.
Right.
When they go to
which we're also going to review.
But she says, I remember all these things. I still have music. Why am I not changed? And he's like, because you're with me.
Right.
But she was with him when she stepped on a butterfly and changed, no problem. For me, I'm like, because you're also a timeless child.
Maybe.
But it seems like that's not the case. So if you're with the doctor, there's like a power, there's an aura.
Well, no, I thought it was just because he was traveling with him in the TARDIS. I didn't think he meant like literally because you're standing next to me. I just thought it meant like because we're traveling together.
In the TARDIS, but literally she stepped on a butterfly and
Eric
was turned into a.
This is a children's show,
right?
Who knows?
Just in the previous episode, it wasn't like 2 seasons ago.
No, it's fair.
Written by the same person.
Right.
So that's all.
Internal logic isn't necessary.
Everything is fine.
Another thing I want to point about this overall, and I think this is a very Russell T Davies thing, and we saw this with the special episodes with David Tennant and Donna coming back. This is such a queer series throughout. So we have not only so we're talking about like Rose, the daughter, from the specials, but we also have Jinx Monsoon, who is a trans woman playing a non-binary character, because there's a little joke in the very beginning in the cold open of like, I'm that.
Yes, about
she, they, I'm them. Like, so there's that going on. There's the,
and I did like that. Not to derail your conversation, but which he's talking about the song about a heartbroken lesbian.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, so the heartbroken lesbians, like it's just like through and through such a incidentally queer story without like being all pointing at it, other than Jinx Monsoon being so over the top and larger than life, which the character needed that. I can't imagine how anyone else. This is like that
was like
this is what
casting
Doogie
like
Howser wanted to do. Like this is
I
executed in that way,
too.
Of course, but like this is better.
Yeah,
this
I
is
did enjoy his performance, but this
fully.
is
Itself, like I loved her so much in this. Anyway, it was the Venn diagram,
and I think she elevated the role too. Like if someone else was there, would I have liked this as much?
Right. If
there was different casting,
it's hard to say
because it was like any time that she was on screen, it was enjoyable
and just
regardless of what was happening.
There was some really,
except for
the creepy stuff too.
I was like, except for the stupid devil goes down to
of course, that's not really her fault. But like the whole they're with the piano, and she like climbs into the piano and comes out the other piano, and it's very like
that old
very
lady
like the
when she
ring
goes to get
in a
that
way.
old
Of just
lady.
like rah coming out. It was
Yeah,
really
or
cool.
Bob
Yeah,
coming over the sofa. Awesome.
So good.
One other note
Yeah.
I will say about like the chords that will unmake her or whatever. Or
Yeah.
I had convinced myself it was the Doctor Who theme, and I thought when the Doctor was playing, I was like, "Oh my god, he's going to play the Doctor Who theme." But then they had done it in the beginning.
That would have been funny, though.
That was the sound that brought her in. Like
that would have been very, very funny. Oh, okay. Also, we didn't mention this. She has the giggle, the arpeggio giggle.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I was like, what was the giggle? I know I reviewed it. I know
Right.
it's with Doogie Howser.
But this is all. I guess this is.
You can't keep calling him Doogie. I'm calling him Doogie Howser like as if
This
that's
is actually
Neil
Patrick
Harris's name, because you injected that
I
into my
accepted
brain.
it. You actually started it.
Apologies. I know Neil Patrick Harris listens to our podcast.
Sorry, Neil.
And
I owe you a drink next time I see you.
So much more than that.
Yeah. But so like that's the whole thing. I guess that is kind of I guess the calling card of the pantheon that we're setting up now, maybe because that's the whole thing. So then at the end,
I wasn't sure about that either.
But the maestro says like the one who waits is almost here, and then
he who's behind the cornrows.
Yeah, exactly. Malachi's coming.
It's a Malachi.
Well, what I was gonna say, like, did you catch this? But I don't know how he couldn't. The maestro says the one who waits is almost here. Then the next shot is like on the top of a rooftop, and they come around, and it's a big billboard that says Chris Waits, like the one who waits is coming. It was like the Chris Waits music. So it's so I don't know what's
I
did
not pick up on that.
Okay.
I just saw it was a music banner, and I was
the name
music
is Chris
back.
Waits.
But yeah, Chris Waits.
I'll send you a screenshot of that one too. But yeah, it was just like it's a little on the head. Do we have to talk about the music number, or can we just say you can skip it?
Yeah, we should talk about it. Before we get to the music number, or after we get to the music number, when all of a sudden we're in a Billie Jean world where the ground is lighting up.
That's at the very end. That's at the end of the musical number.
Dude, so that's after our thing. I want to talk about the music number. One is because all of a sudden the Doctor looks at the camera.
I didn't love that too. I liked it when all of a sudden the maestro does it. I liked it when he did it. Did not,
because it's a being outside of time.
Oh,
so we're in that world.
Yeah.
So that I can that makes sense to me.
Eric, speaking of these things
from a story structure, but the Doctor shouldn't be doing that. It's
Agreed.
not Deadpool.
Agreed. It is not Deadpool. Not yet.
It's not.
When the Doctor's playing the chords to unmake, or
it could be, I guess. Yeah.
And we see the music notes in the air. Like everyone saw those notes, right? They were there. Like Paul McCartney and John Lennon
react.
They see it, right? Like it's there.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
I think it's there because when the maestro attacks people, it's physical.
Right.
Like you're physically getting restrained by music.
And then when he's playing
I think it is
the holy notes, like they actually say, okay, that's cool.
It's all fine. Yeah, we can't do it. The whole musical number kind of like at that point you're like, I'm definitely watching a Disney like show that your nieces would watch in 2002.
Song of the South.
Let It Shine Part 2 and like whatever.
Not Song of the South.
Yeah, I don't know why you went weird choice. Who is the little boy that is not dancing that like looks at the dancers and gets mad and closes the door? It almost looks like the same little kid that was from the beginning that turned out to be the maestro.
Right.
I don't know if it was the same. It was like to show us, the maestro's still here, or if it's just another little kid.
I don't recall that part, but
it's supposed to be me.
I think it was you.
Yeah, if you watch that scene again, there is like a little kid who's like at a door and he's watching people dance and he just goes away and closes the door. He does not dance.
I will watch it again, I'm sure. So
he's all of us. Watch it again.
Every one of us.
Then we get to the end, right? And we're doing the
music, but do. Yep,
right,
and they walk across. Yep, which was like almost like a scene from Big, but except they just every step.
Yeah,
so it was
Big.
It was kind of big, but it was kind of Billie Jean. You're right in that way. Whatever, it's fine.
But is that happening? Like
I think it's happening.
None of that happened. Are they just hallucinating?
I think it happened.
It's just this mass hallucination where everyone's dancing, and you don't let all those dancers into a recording studio. You're going to pick up too much noise on the mics.
But also,
they're trying to record.
You're totally right. So they fixed music in 1963.
They fixed it,
but the maestro stole music in 1920 something. So between
that's where it started.
so
Right?
between 1920 something,
or something.
between then and 1963, there was no music still. Like, is that our timeline now? Like, why did they not? They didn't go back and like just. I don't know. It's a small thing.
Yeah, you better not even ask.
I'm not going to pull that thread.
It's a mavity. The
Mavity
of
it
that
all.
situation.
The mavity of it all.
I
right.
had a question too. Oh,
I don't have an answer.
this is a stupid question.
Great.
Scylla.
Oh, I was wondering.
Scylla?
Scylla, like I
Because
think it was like
it's obviously
Priscilla.
someone famous.
I think so. I went and looked to find if I could find a Scylla and EMI recordings. There was a Scylla Black who was recording at that time, who was like a young
maybe.
recording artist. So maybe that's who that was. I didn't recognize, but you wouldn't be able to
Perhaps,
tell.
Folks across in the UK are like, of course, it's our
Scylla
national
Moore.
treasure, Scylla Washington, and the
Scylla
Daisy Town Dukes.
Scylla Washington. Yes.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I really like.
I
that
loved it.
one. Oh, I have Margaret Lockwood written down.
Yeah,
Why do I have that
the
written down?
tea lady. When they say like how expensive the tea is, and she does say
yes.
Margaret Lockwood from Wicked Lady. There's a woman, she's statuesque. I didn't have the time to look it up, so I don't know.
And then I was like, "What is that? Is that?" And then I was like, "Oh, maybe that's what the maestro's known as in this universe," but it wasn't that.
Nope, it was
So
a
I
throwaway.
didn't know if
It was-
meant anything. I have a note here, and it did not come true.
Okay.
As soon as I saw the Beatles, I was like, "Please, Ruby or the Doctor, don't say, John, can you imagine
god,
life with music or whatever?" I'm like, I had that written
Imagine.
down. And if that came true, I was going to explode and turn into doves,
Nope.
and fly away and be free of this mortal coil.
Nope.
But didn't happen.
Thank
so I'm
goodness.
stuck here.
We got lucky in that one.
That's it, Dan. I hit all my notes.
Me too. I think we did it.
I
Eric.
hit all my notes. Fight them with music. We talked about Aerosmith. We talked about The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
We talked about foxes.
Ruby. We talked about foxes. My dogs barked. We hit them all. We did it all. Oh, I will say this.
Yes.
Overall, hated the first one. Thought that I really liked the second one.
Uh-huh.
I am hoping, as much as I like these whimsical, colorful,
Oh, yes.
sort of like fun things, I want a more grounded.
I had a note about that in the first
Story.
In the first story.
I just hope it goes there.
I want it if for no other reason than to give Shudigatwa the opportunity to have range, because he's so kinetic, so ebullient, so just excited about everything. I kind of want him to do the dark turn that David Tennant had the opportunity to do and have the sad doctor, the angry doctor. I think it's going to happen. You have these moments, like especially that actually happens when he's doing the exposition dump in the first story, and he says that all of the Time Lords are gone, and he has like this moment, but then he kind of catches himself. Like I think you're going to do it, and I'm very excited for that.
I just hope we do get like a really good science fiction story that is a little bit more serious. It can still be funny,
right?
But I feel
darker
like
tone.
We need some of that.
Was Russell T Davies era kind of known for that?
Some weight to these.
I mean, his stuff really wasn't.
Well, I mean, if you think about like the episodes he didn't write, but like you have what was the one with the gas mask that Moffat wrote?
Yeah.
The child. What is it? I can't think of it.
I want to say
you would know.
I want to say the Timeless Child, but I know it's not.
Are you my mommy?
Yeah, I know the one.
Literally,
I know that
everybody
one.
who's watching this knows what it is.
That one.
My brain is
that's true. That's great.
Shot. But there were those episodes that you need that.
Yeah.
I think to just give it some range.
I wonder if he actually did.
You look how funny Tom Baker is, and there's
plenty,
incredibly dark
plenty
stories
of
that work, and then you have the comedy and the
pathos,
the darkness, and they balance each other out.
Absolutely, like yin,
I don't want it to be
yang.
Like, totally like everyone ends at a dance scene. Everything is like just kind of silly. I feel like
I think you're right. I think it's going to be
but we'll see.
A setup in this way with a payoff later. There's going to be a lot more of a kind of mix to it. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. And I bring on more mystery and
bring on more Maestro. I don't know. This felt like a one shot. I don't know. If it's
that's
happen.
why you had told me like there's a shot of the ring, and I was like, oh, is that the same ring?
Oh, that's never going to happen. It's
like,
never going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Never going to happen.
But I think you had sort of told me maybe Maestro Master.
Well, that's what I was scared of. I didn't want.
I'd love to see more of her. Like if as a recurring character, that would be great. But it's not that.
I'd like to see more Maestro. But if it had been the Master, I would have been very upset, to be honest. So this was good. We've already done the whole like it's
and this
totally
right, and that's like what I really like about what's happening now too is that it's new stuff.
Yes, well, like, which is also anchored.
This pantheon is new,
but it's anchored in like the toy maker, so it's like it's new.
Sure,
it's
got a connection to it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, right. I like that too.
So I want to see more new things.
Same here.
I'll also be happy.
Me too, buddy.
You know, like, and I don't remember. I know I watched it. Like, what's next?
I didn't,
and it seemed like more. It was like landmines or something. So it didn't look like the Suntarans.
I'm trying not to watch any.
It seemed like
I want to get surprised. Man. Of course, Disney Plus is going to ruin it because
come here.
Disney Plus will ruin it because they'll have a thumbnail that is like a key scene from it, and it'll just ruin everything anyway. But
like
whatever.
The character that's dying in the arms,
right? And like, oh, great, now I know.
Of a good friend.
Eric, I think we did it. We clocked in at about an hour. Let's get out of here.
We did an hour. We covered 2 exciting episodes. This is gonna go up as soon as I possibly can. Hopefully within the next 20 minutes.
And then we'll see you guys.
And we'll be done.
We'll see you guys in a week.
Done for the week.
We'll see you guys in a week. We'll do another one in a week.
All
right, guys. See you later.
Thank you for watching. So, what did you think of the story? Let us know in the comments or write us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, please let others know about us. Share it on whatever's left of social media these days. If you want to support me, I've got a number of books available for purchase, including On the Island of the Mad Magician. It's available right now on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. The Wolf and the Well, the sequel to the graphic novel Goblin from Will Perkins and I, was recently announced, and it's available for pre-order today. It really does help a lot. Till next time, be good.
Where's my robot, you know?